The following program, NORML Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting NORML.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of NORML Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of NORML. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to rethink and criminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents NORML Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, NORML's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good afternoon, snowed in East Coasters. It's Thursday, February 11th, 2010, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Welcome for another 60 minutes of news and interviews you can use for the cannabis community. I'm your host, Radical Russ Belville, coming to you live and direct from Potland, Oregon. It's not a typo, it's a way of life. Glad to have you here and glad to have joining us in our virtual studio all the way from Astoria, Oregon, my good friend and half sister, Cannabis Carrie.
Hi, Russ. How are you?
I'm doing great, but I have to apologize to you and to the audience for yesterday's show because I lied. I was a big fat liar yesterday when I said that it was sunny outside. It wasn't sunny outside. I was remembering the day before. I hadn't been outside for an entire day.
Yeah, Russ, you need to leave your computer every once in a while.
That's what they tell me. They say it's bad for my health. Oh, boy. It's so much work to do, so much marijuana to legalize, and so little time. I just can't help myself. I'm a workaholic for the weed. What can I say? Cannabis Carrie brings us our news right after our first break. Carrie, what are we looking forward to today?
Well, we're going to go and look at a case in California where a man was fired from his job for the use of medical marijuana. We're going to go to our shared home state of Idaho for some hemp headline news.
All right.
And, well, the last story, Russ, you're just going to have to hear it to believe it. It's sheriffs gone mad in the Midwest.
Sheriffs gone wild in the Midwest. We'll take a look at that right after this first break. Thanks, Carrie. We'll put you on mute and get right back to you after the break. And also want to remind folks that if you'd like more than what you can get here in this NORML Show Live, you can also pick us up as a podcast on iTunes. Just look for NORML Daily Audio Stash. That's the name of our archive. You can also find our archives at stash.normal.org, where we also have so many more blog posts, videos, and other things that you just can't get on the webcast show. So check it out, stash.normal.org. And please, if you're on Twitter, follow me on Twitter at Radical Russ. I'm slowly creeping up to having 1,000 followers. I want to have a whole lot more. We want to get all together, get organized, and help each other fight for our own freedom. That's what it's all about here with adult marijuana re-legalization in America, and we're here every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific bringing that news to you. Now, coming up on the show in just a little bit, we'll have your Daily Toker tunes. Today is a Groovin' Thursday tune from JohnDoeRadio.com. We'll bring you your cannabis community calendar, and then for our Thursday guest on every Even Thursday, the second and fourth Thursdays, that is, we have a guest from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, the group of police, former DAs, prosecutors, and judges who say we should legalize drugs to end the crime and violence. Today's guest will be Leonard Freeling, who is a former municipal court judge in Colorado. And at the end of the show, my special rant on the conspiracy that NORML secretly wants to keep marijuana illegal.
Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 13 states today, and THCF has clinics in 8 of those states. Our doctors help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms such as multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help you obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Nevada, Montana, and now Michigan. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Look, when I was a kid, I inhaled frequently. That was the point.
Remember, Mr. President, you once were just one bust away from being Barry the drug criminal.
Life ain't a box of chocolates, gum. That's why people smoke weed and take bumps and drink way too damn much and get drunk and do it all over again for.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's Normal News with Cannabis Carrie.
An on-site manager for a senior apartment complex has been fired over his use of medical marijuana. Christian Hughes, a 33-year-old man from Redding, California, has been fired by a new management company after he failed a drug screening hair follicle test. Hughes, who lives in an apartment in the complex, has been given only 2 weeks to find a new place to live. His firing has upset many of the senior citizens who live at the 81-unit senior complex. According to a Redding publication, residents have been sending letters to the new owners of the apartment complex, MCA Housing Partners, in hopes of saving Hughes' job. 68-year-old Noreen Fidley, a resident of 3 years, says that Hughes is much more than an on-site manager to many of the residents. She says that no problem is too big or too small for him, whether it's repairing eyeglasses or comforting them when there is an unexpected illness or death in the complex. To many who live there, Christian is a surrogate brother, son, or grandson. A petition drive started by one of the seniors has over 60 signatures so far, in hopes that the man who has been there for many of them over the last 5 years can retain his position. One resident added that his use of medical marijuana has never interfered with his management, saying, "We are all on prescriptions here. Many of the drugs the seniors use are probably a lot more potent than the marijuana Hughes smokes for medical purposes." Christian Hughes is sad to go, noting that the grounds and the bookwork over his 5 years has been spotless, saying, "The property looks great. The only thing wrong here, I guess, is me."
Oh, my God. Another tragic story in the stupid war on marijuana. Okay, so the senior citizens living there love the guy. He's doing great work. He's a good friend. He's supportive to all of them, helps them out when they can, runs a good place, spotless record, great manager, but he uses medical marijuana. In a state where it's legal, nonetheless, using medical marijuana, and that is too much for the management company to put up with. You know, this is something that we all face in this battle to try to win back our hemp heritage here in America, is that to fight back identifies you as a criminal. It identifies you as someone to be loathed, someone to be kicked out of your job and your housing, someone who should lose their student loans and not be allowed to go to school, someone who would be considered a bad parent and should have their kids taken away from them. You know, when people sometimes complain that we don't have a lot of people that are fighting openly for marijuana legalization, I kind of look at the glass as half full. I'm surprised we have as many people fighting for marijuana legalization openly as we do. We always encourage people to come out of the cannabis closet and to identify as a cannabis consumer, but of course you have to do that within reason. I mean, you can't put your family at risk, and you can't put a lot of times your job at risk to do these things. And that's why we're here at NORML Show Live Live and working here at NORML to try to be your voice, to write and do the research and lobby these politicians, because we really don't have anything to lose. I mean, I don't get in trouble with my boss for being open about my cannabis use, and I'm not going to get kicked out of my house for that either. So continue to support us, and we will continue to support you.
Hemp news from the beautiful and conservative state of Idaho. A resolution supporting industrial hemp production failed in the House Agricultural Affairs Committee on Wednesday, despite claims that from the bill's sponsors that hemp production could lead to an increase in jobs and tax revenue in the state. Representative Tom Trail, a Republican that sponsored the bill, says the multi-million-dollar industry could bring much-needed support to Idaho farmers. Representative Dennis Lake, a Republican from Blackfoot, Idaho, objected to the proposal, saying that the legislation could add an unneeded burden on law enforcement officers. Lake expressed concerns that officers could struggle in differentiating between legal hemp fields and illegal marijuana operations. Trell responded during testimony that during his research on the issue, he had met with law enforcement officials from Canada, where hemp is legal, and they informed him that no marijuana growers are, quote, stupid enough to plant cannabis near hemp fields due to cross-pollination. Planting the two products near each other results in the THC content of cannabis being lowered, thereby reducing the high that can be obtained from it. Trail added that Canadian officials said they encourage hemp production near urban areas to help combat illegal cannabis grow operations in cities. A co-sponsor of the agricultural bill, Representative Brian Cronin of Boise, told lawmakers that Idaho is missing out of job opportunities and tax revenue, and argued that hemp legalization proponents have done a terrible job of educating the general public and lawmakers of the realities of hemp. He said, we spend hundreds of millions of dollars buying hemp from Canada, and not a day goes by that we don't use one or another hemp product. Following testimony, Lake proposed the committee kill the resolution, but the committee failed to do so on a 5-5 tie vote. Representative Donna Pence from Gooding asked the panel to introduce the plan and send it to the full House for further consideration. Pence's request also failed on a 5-5 tie vote. They needed a majority, Russ.
Yeah. And this, of course, coming from both Carrie and I are Idaho natives. We moved out of Idaho to Oregon because we discovered that you can. And just to give you some background here about this Idaho geography and politics, the representative who introduced this bill, Representative Tom Trail, I've interviewed him on the show. He was a guest on the NORML Daily Audio Stash. Check out stash.norml.org. Put Tom Trail, just like you'd think it would be spelled, up in the search box, and you can find my interview. He's from Moscow, Idaho. Now, Moscow, Idaho is in the northern portion of the state, but it is most notable for being the home of the University of Idaho. So it's a college town. It's a little bit more progressive, a little bit more educated on the issue. The representative who opposed this and was saying the terrible things about, the ridiculous things, I should say, about hemp and pot being grown in the same area and such, he's from Blackfoot, Idaho. Now, Blackfoot, Idaho is a place where my father grew up, and a very, very conservative area of the state, heavily dominated by the Mormon religion. And that's a place where people aren't as educated and more likely to believe the reefer madness lies. I'm very, very proud of Tom Trail for shooting down that stupid hemp idea that we'd somehow hide pot crops inside hemp crops. And to go further on that, I always have to laugh when I think that when police say that, when people that support law enforcement say there would be a problem differentiating hemp crops from pot crops, aren't they really just saying American police are stupid? I mean, isn't that really what that means? I mean, absolutely. I mean, somehow the police in Canada and Europe and China and all these other places where marijuana is still illegal, they don't have any problem differentiating an 18-foot tall reedy hemp plant from a 6 to 10 foot tall, short, round, bushy pot plant. They don't have any problem with that. So there's no reason here in America that we shouldn't be able to grow hemp. It's long been one of my pet peeves in this movement is that we don't have legal hemp. If anything is a slam dunk case, it's legalizing hemp. It's not even a drug, and yet we let our Drug Enforcement Administration tell us we can't grow it.
The sheriff in Saginaw, Michigan is easy to spot. He drives around in a tricked-out 2007 Ford Mustang GT with letters on the side stating, "Taken from a local drug dealer." The Saginaw News did a story on Sheriff William Feederspill, who is very proud of his newest acquisition that he drives to and from work and around the county. The car's original owner, Greg Tackleberry of Bridgeport, was arrested and his car and other property seized after a drug raid next door to him in 2009. During the raid on his neighbor's property, police saw a potted marijuana plant outside in his backyard, and then they found 68 more plants inside. Tackleberry claims he is not a drug dealer and insists that the marijuana at his home was for his own use. He has since become a registered medical marijuana patient and grower. The burden of proof for police and prosecutors to make a forfeiture stick in a court is lower than the beyond a reasonable doubt standard required to convict anyone of a crime. This has led to instances in which a person may walk away free in a drug case, but their property will remain with the police. Officer Feederspill says that his methods of taunting drug dealers by proudly flaunting their stuff is a deterrent to others who might be considering a life of crime. He proudly shows off the heated leather seats and stereo and tells the Saginaw News, quote, "I'm going to drive this every single day. Rain, snow, sleet, I don't care." Most disturbing in the story was the plans Sheriff Feederspill shared with a reporter that he hopes his department will claim more vehicles through drug forfeiture or drunk driving laws to equip his 6-person staff by the end of his first term. He is targeting a 2008 black Cadillac Escalade, which, if acquired, he says will become the mobile anti-drug dealing billboard for his undersheriff, Officer Robert Carl. Forfeiture laws, instead of being a deterrent to crime, it seems, are more of an incentive to police. Ironically, Russ, he says that driving around in the shiny Mustang tells youth that crime doesn't pay.
Okay, the Michigan sheriff here is the perfect example of something that's called civil asset forfeiture. It's a bastardization of English law that we are stuck with here in America, where a piece of property is actually charged with a crime, a non-living entity that has no mens rea, no concept of purposefully, breaking the law. This piece of property is charged with a crime. You end up going to court cases that are things like United States versus $185,000 in cash, or State of Colorado versus the home at 8241 Main Street, right? It's ridiculous. And like Carrie mentioned, the burden of proof here is not like in a criminal case where you're innocent until proven guilty. The property is guilty until proven innocent. It is just an abomination of what justice should be in America, and especially when taken to this extreme where this Michigan sheriff now is targeting different cars that he wants to pick up for his deputies without any regard to whether this might be real crime or a crime being committed. It's this idea of policing for profit, and it's something that is very, very dangerous in our society and needs to end. I want you to check out a website called fear.org, F-E-A-R. It's Forfeiture Endangers American Rights, and you can learn more about civil asset forfeiture. And it's one of the worst aspects of this war on drugs, aside from not turning off my fax machine. This is also something that was covered by Radley Balco. He's a writer for the Reason magazine, and he's also featured on Huffington Post quite often. And he points out how the forfeiture, he's got an article entitled "The Forfeiture Racket," and we've got that posted as well at stash.normal.org. Just go up to the search box and type in Radley, R-A-D-L-E-Y, and then Balco, B-A-L-K-O. He's been covering these forfeiture cases for a long time for Reason, and can really break it down for you as to what an abomination this is and what we need to do to end it. All right, folks, it's just about time for that break, and for those of you still snowed in out there on the East Coast, it should be an extra special 420 for you. We'll be right back with your Toker Tunes.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support NORML Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would say to South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Law420.com. Hello, I'm Russ Belville, Outreach Coordinator for NORML. In my job, I read literally hundreds of headlines each month involving nonviolent, productive citizens whose lives are ripped apart by a marijuana or drug arrest. Many citizens could avoid arrest by refusing police searches and remaining silent, but police are well trained to confuse and intimidate. That's why you have a right to speak to an attorney before answering any police questions. I hope you never need to exercise that right, but if you do, make your first call to the law offices of John C. Lucy IV. John Lucy is an accomplished criminal defense attorney with expertise in Oregon's medical marijuana law. John Lucy understands and respects cannabis and drug consumers of all backgrounds. Call John C. Lucy IV at 503-227-6000 or visit in downtown Portland. Address available at law420.com. That's John C. Lucy IV at 503-227-6000 or visit law420.com today.
Hi, this is Alan St. Pierre, Executive Director of NORML. We are the oldest, largest, and best-known marijuana law reform organization in America, and it's all because of your support. Take some time to join NORML at www.norml.org. Your membership supports this podcast, our websites, our policy research and analysis, and our annual conferences. Changing marijuana laws is a grassroots effort, and it starts with you, the stakeholder. Join NORML today and add your voice to the millions of cannabis consumers who demand equality with our beer-drinking friends.
John Doe Radio.
I'm John Doe with your Groovin' Thursday tune, the Mile High State. Not just a nickname we have for how high we sit geographically, it's also the state of mind we hold in Colorado, and that state of mind triggers the creation of some of the grooviest bands and tunes you will hear anywhere. One of the grooviest groups that has been around for a while in our awesome Mile High State is our hometown favorite reggae ska band, Pinochle. Besides the funky name and music, you can be assured wherever this band goes, it brings a huge crowd with it that can be spotted and followed by the heavy cloud of smoke hovering overhead. Many places in the world have hidden gems of talent that deserve to see the light of day, and given the opportunity, success usually follows in some form or another for most. Pinochle over the last decade has certainly conquered Colorado and are now trying to parlay their local success to the national stage. They will continue to tour outside of Colorado as to build that national fan base and continue to push their message of hope and triumph over the odds. Don't miss Pinochle, and please offer your speakers the ability to satisfy themselves with the groovin' tunes of this band. Check out their MySpace. MySpace not dead yet for bands. That is a good thing there. And be sure to find them on iTunes. It's Pinochle from Denver, Colorado with Love to Love Her. Enjoy, my friends. Also, my Valentine's Day song to y'all. Dudes, do not forget to buy something. I'm John Doe. See ya.
Can't stop her, she's a rocker, head in the sky. Can't look away from the stars in her eyes. That girl has got you going crazy. Something about the way she moves and open attitude.
420
All right, it's time to check out our normal calendar of events, the Cannabis Community Calendar, which you can find at norml.org/calendar. Tonight, the University of New Hampshire NORML will be having their meeting at MUB 334, and Ohio NORML will be having their open meeting via Paltalk on the web. Check out ohionormal.org for more details. On Friday, February 12th, University of New Hampshire NORML will be tabling at the Student Activities Fair at the MUB. On Saturday, February 13th, it begins Medical Marijuana Week, National Medical Marijuana Week, according to Americans for Safe Access. Check out americansforsafeaccess.org/MMJ Week. Also on Saturday, NORML of Waco, Inc. in Waco, Texas will be having their membership meeting at La Fiesta on Hewitt Drive with special guest speaker, gubernatorial candidate Jeff Dale. They'll also be talking about getting volunteers for the next day's Texas Highway 164 cleanup. Check out normalofwacoinc.org. Oregon NORML will be holding their twice-monthly cardholders meeting for members of the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program. Check out ornorml.org. And on a special note, we will be broadcasting the Oregon NORML meeting live on this Stick'em stream for NORML Show Live on Saturday afternoon. That'll be Saturday at noon Pacific. You can see Madeline Martinez, myself, John Lucy, Paul Loney, all of the members of the Oregon NORML Board speaking, and the largest meeting of actually the largest NORML chapter in the world. You can catch their meeting this Saturday at noon Pacific on this stream. On Sunday, February 14th, it is Valentine's Day, so do something nice for your sweetie. And NORML of Waco, Inc. will be having their Texas Highway 164 cleanup. This is in accordance with the Adopt a Highway program that many NORML chapters are involved in. It's a great way to get the NORML name out there and to show that we are involved with the community. For more information, send me an email at stash@normal.org, and I'll tell you how to get on the Adopt a Highway program. And some previews for next week on Wednesday, February 17th. Reverend Ray Green wanted me to let everyone know that the Iowa Board of Pharmacy is having their hearing at the Iowa State Historical Building, 600 East Locust Street in Des Moines, Iowa. They are meeting to discuss the reclassification of marijuana from Schedule 1 down into Schedule 2 or lower in the state of Iowa. Good news there in the Midwest. We look forward to that. For more information on any of these events, including names, dates, email addresses, websites, and more, check out the NORML Cannabis Community Calendar at norml.org/calendar.
Starfish Designs, makers of the original Gandalf.
I'm Radical Russ, and when I want to relax, I always have my 17-inch long original Gandalf from Starfish Designs nearby. The hand-blown borosilicate glass is strong and easy to clean, and the design is sleek and sophisticated. Starfish Designs are available from Bend, Oregon at a glass retailer near you. For locations, call 541-788-GLASS. That's 541-788-4527. One of the most disturbing elements of the war on marijuana is how it has made police the enemy of otherwise law-abiding cannabis consumers. Fortunately, one group of police officers knows firsthand the futility of the drug war and reaches out to the community and to current law enforcement to end our war on drugs through legalization. It's time now to speak to one such officer in our continuing look at law enforcement against prohibition. You know, I really should change that introduction just a little bit, because it's not just law enforcement officers who are members of LEAP, but also former judges, prosecutors, attorneys, and members of the general public who agree with LEAP's mission to legalize drugs to end the violence and crime and warfare that goes on around the drug trade. Joining us now to discuss the issue is Leonard Freeling. He's a former Colorado municipal judge. Leonard, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Russ. I appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you being here because you, as a municipal judge, probably saw so many cases come before you day after day with regard to adult marijuana possession or sales. Can you tell us what that was like in your career, just having to go through that grind day after day?
The good news is I didn't have to hear that many pot cases in the days that I was on the bench. The one trial on a petty offense pot possession that I did preside over was a bag of pot next to a kid on a park bench. My finding was there was no showing of possession. Another one that I had, I was disturbed that I had no choice but to convict the guy of the petty offense pot possession. But what made it seem okay to me was that he had exhibited bad manners. He had tried to get his 14-year-old sister and her friend to join him in smoking, which is bad manners.
Right.
And on top of that, he knew they were both absolutely uninterested. So that particular one didn't trouble me, but it wasn't the pot element, it was more the behavior.
Right, the irresponsibility involved. Now,
when yes.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was looking at your biography here, and it mentions here that you were a municipal judge in Lafayette, Colorado, and that you resigned there because of the city wanting to institute stronger penalties for marijuana possession. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that scenario?
Absolutely. The chief judge in Lafayette went to the city council and asked them to increase the penalty for a municipal ordinance violation from the $100 fine maximum that matched the state fine to $1,000 and a year in jail maximum. Now, although personally I happen to like the guy and I still get along great with him, that was, in my opinion, so outrageous that I wrote a letter of resignation saying I am unwilling to continue taking the bench. And let's just be clear, it's not my day job. My day job is still criminal defense attorney. This was a learning experience. In any event, I wrote the resignation letter very honestly saying I couldn't possibly feel good about taking the bench, knowing walking in the door that I will not, cannot, should not, and refuse to enforce one of the ordinances. Now, I could have played the game and just in my own mind kept the fines to $100 maximum, but that's playing the game. That's not doing it right. So I wrote the letter of resignation, and then it occurred to me that I might have a little fun with that by sending it to our local newspaper, the Boulder Daily Camera, as a letter to the editor. And Boulder Daily Camera shipped it from the editorial page over to the news desk. AP picked it up within 12 hours. And the rest, as they say, is electrons spreading over the world. We ended up getting the city council to completely back off the issue, to say correctly, in my opinion, we have other more important things to spend our time on. So it was one of those political gestures that, with the help from a few thousand of my closest friends, we got the city to do the right thing.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, you did mention, and we are again speaking with Leonard Freeling, who is a former Lafayette, Colorado municipal court judge, but you also mentioned that, your main practice here was criminal defense, which you've been doing for decades. In your experience as a criminal defense attorney, you've probably dealt with a lot of folks involved who've been caught up in this drug war. Can you characterize for our listeners here a little bit about how you felt about the continued prosecution of these people and whether or not that was a good use of your time and the court's time?
There is absolutely no question in my mind that it is a horrible thing that our government is doing to our people and to people in the rest of the world. It's outrageous, it's indefensible, and while I have no interest at all in representing dispensaries that haven't been busted or grows that haven't been busted, what I'm really trying to do is put myself out of that part of my criminal defense practice by eliminating the need for it with activism, with talks like these, with getting every chance I can to speak to one or more people and apply a little science and reason and persuasiveness on a good day to get them over that emotional hurdle, which is based on what we at NORML and now at LEAP, I believe, are calling legislated science. So, yes, I do drug defense. Yes, I like to think I'm quite good at it. And yes, if I could get this stuff legalized, regulated, and taxed, and never had another drug defendant, that would be a better world.
You know, and this is something that comes up from time to time, and I get a ton of emails here at NORML from people, and every now and then we get the one where there's this conspiracy theory that for some reason NORML and all these other groups that are fighting, especially the ones that involve lawyers or police, really secretly want to see the marijuana prosecutions continue so that we can continue to have the income that you get from defending these people. Can you address that as someone who's the actual defense attorney working to end prohibition?
Absolutely. I'm sorry I was interrupting you. It's a bad habit, and at this many years old, I doubt I'll be getting over it.
That's fine. Go ahead.
I got to look these LEAP guys, and I'm honored that they permit me to call myself a LEAP speaker. I look these guys in the eye, and we're talking about the guy that ran the New Jersey State Police narcotics underground unit and worked undercover and did that for like 14 years. Put a lot of people in prison. Trust me, he's not trying to put any more in prison. Is he trying to, are we all to an extent trying to expiate some guilt? I don't know. What I can tell you for certain is these are police officers, captains, prison wardens that believe in their hearts that this war is doing nothing but harm. It's not protecting anyone from drugs. It's not helping with treatment. It's raising the street value of the various illegal drugs, which then creates crime that otherwise wouldn't exist. You can get 2 coca crops for each coffee crop. So theoretically, if cocaine costs the same as coffee, and fancy coffee, let's say it's $18 a pound for cocaine. Have you ever heard of anyone carjacked for a pound of coffee?
Maybe Seattle.
Have any of your friends been burglarized so somebody could get their $18 pound of cocaine?
Yeah.
No, because it's not available. It's whatever it is a gram. And it's artificial. There's no trick, as far as I know, to growing coffee or coca.
Right.
So we have this thing where the government creates a prison industry, creates an industry for a portion of law enforcement that then doesn't have time to deal with things that you and I might call real crime. And instead they focus on criminalizing behavior where people at best are doing themselves some to a lot of good, and at worst, with some of the hard drugs, they're killing themselves. I would love to offer them treatment if and when they're ready. But in the meantime, here, have some free heroin. And when I ask a group of civilians if heroin and cocaine were on the supermarket shelf next to the coffee, would you go in and buy a couple of pounds? And most people think they would not.
Right. I
am told.
I was going to say, this just gets to another point that is often made by the opponents of drug legalization, is they'll say, why would we, we have enough problems with alcohol and tobacco, why would we want to unleash, more drugs on our society?
Pandora's box has been opened. This is anecdotal, but every time I talk to a large crowd of random people, Republicans, Democrats, doesn't matter, when I tell them I have heard that from junior high school, they now call middle school, on down, it is easier to get drugs than to get alcohol. Well, we have criminals in charge of the drug distribution, and we have the state in charge of alcohol. Is that a perfect model? It's not perfect, but what is? It does seem to work better than what we're talking about. Is, do we want the government to control dangerous drugs, or do we want the Taliban controlling dangerous drugs?
Right.
Personally, as much as I'm not a great fan of the government, I do prefer them to the Taliban. We should be growing opium poppies in Iowa. Do I think that will increase heroin use? No. It will decrease. It will decrease heroin deaths because strengths will be controlled. And I know I'm getting beyond the normal position and more into the LEAP position. But addicts die of overdoses because they don't know what they're shooting up. They never do. One day it's candy, one day it's the real thing.
Right.
So we eliminate that problem. We eliminate the crime created because something that has no intrinsic value is given this phony value that then makes an addict not only an addict, but a person in need of money, and then, very often, an addict and a felon. Now, it doesn't take a whole lot of thinking to figure out which is easier to help when they are ready to be helped. An addict felon or a drug addict with a health problem.
Right. And
why give them twice the problem?
That's so
somebody
true.
Comes in with cancer. Somebody comes in with cancer of the throat, so you say, all right, well, let's cut off your leg first, and when we get around to it, we'll look at your throat.
Yeah, you're so right. It's so absurd, and day after day we face this stupid war on drugs, and we do all we can to end it. We're speaking with Leonard Freeling, who is a former Lafayette, Colorado Municipal Court judge and a speaker for law enforcement against prohibition. Do check out the LEAP website. You can find them at www.leap.cc or at copssaylegalizedrugs.com. Now, Leonard, as you go forth and you're a speaker for LEAP and you go to so many different areas of the country and speak to people, and like you said, mixed audiences, how receptive have the audiences been to the idea of not just legalizing marijuana, but legalizing all drugs?
Obviously, we give that a lot of thought. One of the ways that I am looking at it this week is I'm looking forward to a Monday morning presentation to Larimer County Republicans. Fantastic. It would not surprise me if some of the people in the room have their minds so emotionally made up that nothing at any time under any circumstances will change their mind. So I can't worry too much about them. Mm-hmm. If anyone in that room is willing to admit that they are willing to consider, not agree with me, not disagree with me, just consider whether this might perhaps be a better approach, we win. Mm-hmm. Because if they're willing to consider it, the conclusions they're inescapable. The logic is simple. The numbers are overwhelming, and most people don't want to be funding the Taliban. And if we're talking not the kind of medical cannabis that we're seeing in Colorado, but your classic up from the south bricks, then they're financing Mexican drug cartels, too.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned this idea of people being emotionally attached to the notion of prohibition, and you're saying there's not a whole lot that we can do about them. How many of them, though, do you think there are that are emotionally attached and their minds can never be changed? And what is the nature of this emotional attachment?
If I were on your end of the microphone, I would tell me, assume there are no such people. Pretend they don't exist. Talk to everyone as if they're open to considering something. Mm-hmm. Do I think the big percentage of people? I think it is not. And I think, and I'm thinking specifically of my late father-in-law, who was military, MP, federal prison guard, that kind of history. Mm-hmm. And as he got older, he came to a couple of realizations. One of them is that people are not gay by choice, and therefore to discriminate against homosexuals is ridiculous. And he also came to the conclusion, specifically with cannabis, that it's just ridiculous. What's the big deal? It just doesn't interest me. Mm-hmm. And he would have been seen as one of those absolutely goose-stepped, locked-in, closed-minded. I was wrong.
That's fantastic. I love to hear people whose minds come around after a while, and sometimes it just takes year after year after year of talking to them, I guess.
Or, and I hate even saying this, but we know it's the reality. Their great aunt Tilly needs some cannabis to help her with her chemo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, what becomes important is not some drug they don't know about and don't care about. All of a sudden, what's important is what medicine is going to help Aunt Tilly.
That's right. Or their college-age son or daughter gets kicked out of school and loses their financial aid for smoking a joint, and now they're moving back in with the parents.
And that cuts both ways. Some of the parents say, I'm on your side. I know this is just bull. And others are that, see, I told you so.
Yeah. Well, Leonard,
so I see that cutting.
I've got to wrap things up. I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but thank you, Leonard Freeling from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Check out the website at leap.cc. And Leonard, do you have any other websites or information you'd like to give out to our listeners before we wrap it up?
Well, I suppose I'd be an idiot if I didn't mention lfreeling.com.
There we go.
And what I am working on, and is not yet up and running, I just grabbed a domain name, is Science of Pot. .org and .com. There's nothing there yet. But my intention is to assemble links to as much of the real science as I can, because education is key to this whole thing. And when I was interviewed by somebody out of Kansas City, Missouri for the Kansas City Star, and his part of the interview, he said, well, of course you know there are no double-blind studies showing any of these things are really effective. Well, that's wrong. So education is just key.
Okay, well, thank you, Leonard. We appreciate you joining us here at NORML Show Live, and we are now going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll get my position on this crazy conspiracy theory that NORML doesn't want to really legalize pot. Stay tuned. This is NORML Show Live.
You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hello, this is Webb Hubble. Life insurance is now available for responsible marijuana smokers. For years, responsible marijuana smokers have not been able to access affordable life insurance products. NORML uniquely supports cannabis consumers. 2 carriers have already agreed to offer all of their traditional life insurance products at all levels without excluding individuals who smoke marijuana responsibly. Help NORML and help yourself. If you've been declined for life insurance, are paying above market premiums, or simply want to know what now may be available in the way of insurance for marijuana smokers, contact me at info@mclaughlinonline.com or simply call me at 202-293-5566.
NORML Show Live reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share. This is NORML Show Live.
'Cause the day was hard and your work was long and you need a break from all that's wrong. You better look at the clock 'cause it's 4:19. Time to reach in that pocket for your bag of green and smoke that weed. Smoke that weed. Smoke that weed.
All right, welcome back. It's 48 after the hour, and you're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation. And I'm going to take this opportunity to rant just a little bit about my favorite conspiracy theory, and that is the idea that NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, doesn't really want to legalize marijuana because we're making so much money on marijuana being illegal. We're just rolling in dough. I received this email through Stickum from a person I'll just call Johnny, and Johnny emails and says, quote, "You were in the middle of saying," and this is about yesterday's show, "you were in the middle of saying how we need a better drug war, then go into a donation line for NORML and want to start saying we need to not buy cheap Mexican weed and give money to NORML? Marijuana is still illegal for the fact of money. Money is made up. It's not real. Has no value. Just something our government uses to control us. They won't make marijuana legal because they won't make any money. NORML wouldn't make any money. Non-profit? If marijuana was legal, NORML wouldn't be around. There'd be no money for NORML to take. I challenge you to openly discuss this and let our point of views be open. I challenge you to openly dispute our point of views. Are we really talking about medicine or money? I believe you, sir, are about money."
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration? Please, continue. What's the matter? Oh, you were finished. Oh, well, allow me to retort.
The notion that NORML is in it for the money is one of the most ridiculous notions that comes across my desk at Outreach here at NORML. First of all, this idea that NORML is rolling in dough in our plush penthouse suites in Washington, D.C. If you've ever actually been to NORML's headquarters, I'll tell you where it's at. 1600 K Street, Washington, D.C., Suite 501. It's open to the public. You can go there and visit. It's a wonderful visit, actually. They've got a lot of memorabilia from the past and really interesting things to look at, and they're really friendly people and will talk to you, but you'll find out right away that we're not rolling in dough. And in fact, this studio coming to you right here, all of the technology involved in putting this show on came across because I got people to donate for it. It's not like I had a ton of bucks to buy it myself. And believe me, I've made a ton more money with my IT skills in the profit world than I ever have in the non-profit world. But, there's something about this conspiracy theory that always bugs me. This idea that we just want to keep weed illegal because we make a ton of money on it. How come that conspiracy theory never applies to PETA? The People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals? Nobody ever says, PETA secretly wants people to beat their dogs so they can continue to have their cush jobs. Nobody ever says that, right? Nobody ever goes to the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, and says, well, the NAACP secretly wants racism to continue so that they can continue to have their jobs, right? Nobody ever says that. Nobody ever goes to Focus on the Family, another nonprofit organization, and says, well, Focus on the Family secretly wants abortions to continue so that they can continue to have their cushy jobs and make money. Why is it that NORML is the only one that gets this tar and feather of secretly being against what they stand for? It never comes up with Greenpeace. Nobody ever says Greenpeace wants the whales to continue to be slaughtered so that they can continue to ride around in their boat. Well, I think part of this may have to do with the fact that NORML, National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, is closely aligned with lawyers, criminal defense lawyers. And people naturally kind of have a built-in stereotype about lawyers and ambulance chasers and all the negative things people say about lawyers. But really, I know a ton of these NORML lawyers, and they could be making so much more money with their law degrees, working in corporate law, working in copyright law, intellectual property law. There are so many ways to make money as a lawyer. Defending marijuana cases is probably way down on that list, okay? And they do so many of these cases pro bono as well. I know so many of these lawyers who've given their time freely to help marijuana consumers, to help the sick and dying people. People like Doug Hyatt up there in Seattle, who's working with medical marijuana patients who get kicked off a transplant list because they're medical marijuana patients. So don't give me this idea that the NORML lawyers are in it to make a buck, right? Now, granted, some of these lawyers are doing pretty well. And they should be doing pretty well. They've had, long careers and spent a lot of money on their educations. There's nothing wrong with that. And certainly in our American system of justice, people deserve a defense attorney who's going to be, on their side and fighting the hardest they can to keep you out of prison. So let's not go there as far as this conspiracy theory. Let's talk about what NORML really is. People seem to think that NORML is some massive organization that's going to come down from on high and wave a magic wand and legalize marijuana for you. Like somehow we're a cadre of 500 lawyers all sitting in a boardroom planning and strategizing. That's not really what it is about. NORML is about grassroots activism. And no pun intended, but okay, we'll take it. Grassroots activism. It's about educating and encouraging and backing up the people all around the country and around the world, mind you, who want to get involved in ending adult marijuana prohibition. It's people like my good friend Larry, who works with Oregon NORML. Let me tell you what happened to Larry. I was asking where Larry was. I was at the cafe last night, and I'm talking to Madeline Martinez, and she goes, "Oh, you didn't hear about Larry?" Well, Larry went to Canada, went up to Vancouver, was going to get, up there for the Winter Olympics. And the at the border crossing, the Canadian customs people pulled him out of the line and held him for extra questioning. And they said, "I'm sorry, sir, your name is on a list. Are you a medical marijuana patient? Are you involved with medical marijuana?" Now, Larry didn't advertise that he was a medical marijuana patient. He didn't show his card, didn't even have his card in his wallet or anything like that. But for some reason, down from Oregon, from all the way up in Oregon, all the way to Canada, his name made it onto some sort of list with the Canadian government. And then they pointed out a picture to him of himself and said, "Well, sir, is this you in this picture?" And it was a frame grab off of the evening news here in Portland, Oregon, where Larry was demonstrating a vaporizer in one of the many stories that have come out about the Cannabis Cafe. So here he is doing something completely legal, right? He's a card holder. There's nothing illegal about him being at the cafe or being involved at the cafe. He's in a state where it's considered, absolutely legal, and he's exhibiting his American right to petition his government for a redress of grievances by joining a nonprofit organization like Oregon NORML and going out there and publicly proclaiming that these laws need to be changed. And the Canadian government wants to hassle him for that. The Canadian government hassles him for that. They take his car and completely ransack his car and come up with like a roach, I believe, little tiny ass roach or something. And now, from now on, as designated by the Canadian government, he is no longer ever allowed to cross into Canada, for he is designated officially as an international drug trafficker. An international drug trafficker, this man, this veteran who served our country, who is standing up for your rights, all you people out there who can't come out of the closet, all you people with jobs and kids and families and all that to risk. Here's a man who's standing up for your rights and his rights. And for that free speech, he's trapped in this country. He cannot leave the United States. And yes, for the people in the chat room, yes, our Larry, that a lot of the people in the chat know who I'm talking about. Yes, Larry, one of the board members for Oregon NORML. This is what's happening in America. Well, I guess in Canada too, since it was the Canadians that stopped him. But it makes you wonder, how did this name get on this list? What's going on here? Is there someone that's sitting around watching television stations all around the country and forwarding the names of people they find in marijuana protests to the U.S. State Department and to the Canadian officials? Is that what's going on here? Is that what we're so afraid of, a plant in this country that we've got to abrogate people's civil rights and harass them at the border over a roach? Are you serious? This is ridiculous. And so when people make these accusations about NORML being in it for the money, it personally offends me. Personally offends me because these are my friends you're talking about. These are hardworking people you're talking about that are doing so much more than the average marijuana smoker who can't or won't get involved. And you're talking about those people as if they're just in it for the money? They're risking their lives, they're risking their livelihoods. They're risking their reputation. They're risking their ability to travel. They're risking their very freedom. And you think they're just in it for the money? The very work we're doing here at NORML and NORML Show Live is to bring down the price of marijuana, to bring it down to the point where commercially it's no more expensive than fine wine, and privately you're allowed to grow it yourself with no interference from the government, no taxes, no inspectors, no licenses. It should be as legal as home brewing beer. You're allowed to brew like 100 gallons of beer at home with no taxes, no interference from the government. I don't see why marijuana can't get the same sort of consideration from our lawmakers. Well, that's my rant on the NORML conspiracy theory, and I'd like to hear your opinions on that. You can send me an email at stash@norml.org. I answer all the emails. Sometimes it takes a while, but I get to all of them, I promise you. We're working here 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday. Check out the replays of the show every odd hour, just in case you missed something, with an hour of toker tunes in between. And until next time, my friends and tokers, take care of each other.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. And it goes down smooth.
This is NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Take it out one more time. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.